I'm Artistic Gamer 7, and welcome back to another speed build here on the channel. So I will say, starting off with this speed build, you'll probably see me building this and get a little confused by some of the things that are going on and how I'm doing things and stuff like that. I'm just gonna start that off by saying I was partially confused as building this. So I actually had a reference image that I was sort of going off of just for the outside look of it. I didn't have any reference pictures for the inside, but I was trying to see from what this picture was to see how to do it, and it was definitely a very hard picture to actually recreate with a lot of the limitations that is in Sims 4 when it comes to actually building some buildings and things like that, trying to copy them from real life. But I definitely tried my best, and in the end I really did like how it turned out. Now, did it look like the exact same build as the reference image? No, but it looked at least somewhat similar. I basically just used it as inspiration in the long run and sort of tried to go as close as I could, and then started doing sort of my own thing as I started going on. But at least for the beginning half, I was trying to strongly go by this picture and then edit things as I needed to for the purpose of the build. I actually ended up making the back half of the house quite a bit smaller, and that's one of the things sometimes when I go into builds, even when it's not meant to be a huge build, I go in making it a huge build on accident. So that's something that sometimes I do end up doing, but I do sort of fix it in this one because, like I said, that back half I actually make a little bit smaller. I pull the house a little bit further up too, so that there's actually a backyard back there and things. But basically this is it's more of a, definitely what I would consider modern looking home. Now, I am really bad at knowing technically, officially, what is considered modern, Victorian, and I can't even think of the other ones right now because that's the main two that are coming to mind. I know there's a Tudor style and stuff like that. I'm really bad at actually knowing the differences between houses. Some of them are sort of easy, and some of them I can at least go yeah, I think that's trying to go towards the modern vibes, and this is definitely a build that seemed like it was, and that was sort of what I was trying to go for. What I considered modern. This little thing you should be seeing here, me putting the solar panels on it, since, the eco lifestyle just came out, sort of was, I thought it was fitting, but also the way that the roof, I couldn't get the roof to sit perfectly even and line up with each other, the two roofs meeting like that. So I decided as a design element, they purposely made it that certain way, so to set those solar panels on the top there. So what I couldn't fix or couldn't get to adjust right with the way that I wanted the curve to happen, I made it like it was actually a purposefully done design feature so that they could put the solar panels up there. Now, obviously, how big this house is, those few solar panels are probably not enough. I think I actually put a generator or two out back, but at the same time, still probably not enough, because it's not a huge house, but it's a decent size house. There's no basement. It is 2 stories, but the second story is quite a bit smaller than the main floor of the build. And this is one of the parts that you'll probably think looks very confusing. It was very confusing to me because like I said, I was using that one as a inspiration, and I could tell that there was a lot of glass in the build, from what angle I think it was actually a rendered image. They built this in I forgot the software. I've actually played with software to build buildings before in some of the classes that I used to take in college, and they were AutoCAD. There was different features. There was 3ds Max, and I forget the other ones. 3ds Max was the one that was the closest to going into the gaming side of things, but because of the school I was going to at the time, they didn't have things very developed. So I actually ended up doing a few classes where we actually did the blueprints and 3D rendering models of houses and things like that. And I can't remember what it was called, but yeah, that's what this image sort of looked like it came from, was something like that. And I could slightly see it underneath the roofing and things like that it looked like a lot of the house was mostly windows or glass fencing or glass walls to a certain degree. So there was that. So trying to figure out what I was actually going to do myself, being inspired by this image, what I was going to actually do with the glass, whether it was going to be like all windows, was I actually going to make some of it be just glass fencing, like how was I going to do this, how was the layout going to go. Right now I actually have way more walls up than I end up keeping. I actually go with a very, very open plan when it comes to the downstairs area. The kitchen, the dining room, the living room sort of areas, they're all connected and they all have windows that are seeing outside to the outside, like sitting entertainment area. The only rooms downstairs that are like actually walled off are the 2 bathrooms. There's a bedroom down there and also a like study area. And the reason why I separated the study area was because I actually did have some Sims in mind for this build. I'm not going to say too much because if you're going to actually, if you watch some of my LP series, they are characters that are going to be like sort of influencing them, and they're going to be shown in an update video. So I'm not going to go into too big details just to not ruin that surprise, but this house is built with certain Sims in mind and their future that they might possibly have. So, but yeah, so there is the study. I wanted it to be like you could sort of go to the study and not hear the loud sounds and the loud like people. Like it was a little bit more of a quiet space. There's still quite a few windows in the study area and stuff, so it's still like you still see things and like see people and stuff like that, but it's a little bit separate just so that you can actually get away from some of the sounds and things going on in the living room, kitchen, and dining room areas. And then upstairs is actually 3 bedrooms, the master bath, and another bathroom, like just a regular bathroom. And so overall there is 4 bedrooms in this house, 1 downstairs, 3 upstairs. The master is upstairs, obviously, since the master bath is up there. And it is the one that's got like this little outside balcony view that's technically sort of on the roof area that you could sort of see through. I did build this in Brindleton Bay. I forget the size a lot now that I'm thinking about it, but it is that one that's like that far lot up in, was it the top right corner or whatever? It's one of the bigger size lots. It's like a 40 by... maybe a 40 by 50. It's not a... it's a rectangle size, and I want to say at least one of the numbers is 40. But I'm not sure if it's a 40 by 50 or whatever. I forget all the lot sizes there actually are, because as time goes on, there's more and more lot sizes, and some of them are awkward, because there's not as many of them, or they're random. But yeah, it's up in that section. If you go to download this on the gallery, obviously it will tell you what size that this build is, so that you'll know what to put in for your if you want to download this and use it yourself, so you'll know sort of what lot to put it in. But yeah, you don't have to put it in Brindleton Bay. I just had put it in Brindleton Bay for the purpose of my like little save, because all these builds that I've been building for like the past like year or 2 now, actually probably longer than that, for the most part, except for a few of them, are actually going into my main save, and my Sims themselves are actually using or living in or whatever. So that, for the purpose that I was going to use it for, that's where I put it. But obviously you don't have to put it there if you don't want to. But talking of the gallery, if you do end up wanting to download this build, it is going to be up on the gallery. Origin ID is Artistic Gamer 7, and I'm calling this the Slick Modern. So if you end up wanting to download this for yourself, it will be up there for your use to use in your game. I hope you enjoy it if you do choose to use it. And I will say this was definitely a build that took quite a long time, trying to figure out how I was going to do everything and stuff. So it was definitely a challenging build, but it was a lot of fun in the long run, and I actually really liked it. It was different. I don't usually use a whole lot of windows in pretty much any of my builds, just because I personally, I don't care for windows necessarily. I know they're good for light and things like that, and I like them for that purpose, but I am someone who's watched way too many of like cop type stuff, detective work, criminal things and stuff like that, that I'm like very suspicious of people. Like, I just get this feeling like if a window is open in a bedroom, I want to have curtains in front of it, blinds, something, because I don't want someone looking in through the window. So a lot of times I don't like the thought of having a full open window section myself. So this, though I really like how this build turned out and I really love the look of it, I personally would not live in this house because it is way too many windows. And it's the type of windows that would be really hard to cover up with curtains and blinds and things like that. So I would not be living in here. I don't want everyone just peering into my house and seeing everything that I am doing. And technically, if you have a house with a lot of windows, depending on where your house is located, the chances of someone just peering into your window might be low, because you might live somewhere where it's like heavily forested or out of the way or something, but still it's that feeling of like someone could just be seeing everything that I'm doing that I don't personally like. But again, that is my personal taste. I could still appreciate a house that is sort of that concept and be like, oh, that's a really nice looking house. I really like it. I wouldn't live there, but I like it. Like, I like the look of it. So yeah. This build definitely was sort of a test and try as I go along, deciding things sort of last minute in a way. Other than this inspiration photo, I didn't have like too much in mind on if I ended up having to change it. It wasn't like if I can't do this exactly like this, how am I gonna take it? So it was a lot of trial and error. If I couldn't get it to look the way that I was wanting to make it look like, then, you know, it was a lot of going back and forth and trying different things. I did go with the outside and overall black and white theme, and for the most part that is carried inside, especially since there was a lot of windows to the lower portions anyway. I definitely wanted to be able to bring this sort of outside design also to the interior of the house. One, it fit the Sims that I am designing this for, but also just the fact that it is a very open windowed area that you could see into the house. Like when you're on that little patio area, you could see out all over the place. It just seemed fitting. It would seem weird to just have like really bright colors inside of it. They're just popping out of nowhere when the outside is this black and white with sort of that copper orangey, because I'm putting those wood tones in there. I think the wood tones actually really pop with the white and black, so I did really like ultimately doing that. That was one of the few things that I knew I was for surely doing, was like a pretty orangey, rustic sort of wood tone outside for the like little patio area. I guess you would call that a patio sort of area. But I will say for this build, there is so many things, because especially since I did know who I want to move into this house, there were so many things that I kept thinking about that I have CC for when it came to decorating this house that I wanted to do so bad. But I do actually try to do most of my builds CC free, so that if you do go download them, there is no CC that you have to worry about downloading for yourselves. I am actually thinking about redoing the inside of this build, or like changing certain aspects of it by adding some of the CC that I own. And if you all wanted to see a like little tour of this build after it's been CC-ified, then I definitely wouldn't mind doing that. And in some ways I almost want to do that just to show like the difference sometimes, especially when there's a certain build that I just have this strong urge to use CC in, and I can't because of the fact that I am trying to make it easy to download for people. So it's like I so badly wanted to use it, and especially because I ended up using plants to decorate all throughout this house. And I will admit, like, if you have a small house, using some of the plants in the pots and things like that is fine, and you could change the colors of some of them depending on like a theme that you're sort of going with, and it won't look too weird. But when you have a bigger house especially, you can't, I don't want to use the same plant over and over and over again because it just, to me, it will start getting boring. Using it once or twice, like, 2 or 3 times, it's fine, but having to, it's not as many potted plant options, and some of them have such a strong, like, aesthetic to them, like, design aesthetic, that it's actually hard to use them in certain builds without changing up the color of that particular room, or like a theme, like, you know, it's almost got a strong theme to it that wouldn't make sense to use it otherwise. And as you can tell, I redo the sizing of this build quite a bit. I actually do continue to make some of it smaller. That was one of the, like, little design things that I talk about that is, like, took me a while to sort of figure out what I was gonna do. And you probably just saw a cut as well. I did cut out I go through and put all the lights at once for multiple reasons. One, because putting the lights in when you play them as your Sims, yes, I do try to make them fit this room, but a lot of times when you're playing them with your Sims, unless you're taking screenshots, you don't tend to see the lights too much, or if you're using first person, which I, to this day, forget all the time anymore. When it first came out, yeah, but now it's like, I just completely don't think about it. But, other than that, yeah, you don't see the lights, and honestly, putting them in is sort of annoying, like, it's boring to me to watch, like, especially the way I do it, because where I do it in one fell swoop, just to get it done and over with. I put the lights so that I can actually, one, see how it looks like in the dark nighttime, especially when you have outside areas, like this patio here, and 2, to also see what wallpapers and flooring will actually look like when you start putting them down, because depending on what lights you put in and how many lights you put in a room can really make certain wallpapers and things like that actually look different. So yeah, I just go through and put all the lights in, and a lot of times I do cut that out. I think I also cut out putting the wallpaper and flooring in, potentially, just because this build ended up being pretty long, and I probably should have mentioned this towards the beginning, but this is split into 2 parts. If you didn't notice with the title of the video, there is 2 parts of this, because even with taking those things out, unless I was to speed up this to a ridiculous amount to the point that I figured it would not be so enjoyable to watch, then otherwise, you know, it was going to be a really long video. And I'm trying to keep all of my videos, most of my Sims one, I'm trying to keep them under 30 minutes, and all my videos in general, I'm trying to keep them under 35. So I definitely, that's like sort of my thing, to not go over, try to aim for 30 for all of them, but with like Zelda and Tales of Syria and games like that, I'll allow that, like, 5 minutes allowance or whatever. But I still try not to make them too long, so that if you can't sit down for that long period of time, you don't have to worry about it, and you could, like, for this instance, you can come back for part 2 later. Like, part 2 will come up and you could see it at a later date, instead of having to watch the full, like, 40-50 minute video in one swoop. Now, I'm someone who, a lot of times, especially when editing, I binge videos, so 40, 50, hour, 20 minute long videos, things like that, live streams that people have uploaded, that's what I do. That's what I watch throughout the day while I edit, or, like, when I do, like, create Sims. And it's speed builds also, a lot of times I'm watching or listening to something while I'm building it, which is why I actually have to cut out quite a bit. Little behind the scenes, like, little thing. A lot of times my videos, depending, if I have to cut a video into 2 parts, chances are, with the way my recording software sometimes does, like, for some reason with my speed videos and even my cast videos, and I don't get why it doesn't affect my LP videos of, like, the Fame Trio or even Zelda or anything like that, but for some reason, just with the Creative Sims and the speed build ones, when I bring it into my editing software, sometimes it takes that last, like, keyframe and extends that by 20, 30, 40 minutes or so. So it makes it seem like I have a lot more video than I have to deal with. But after taking those out, a lot of times videos that are like this one, that I had to put into 2 videos, usually were 8-9 hours long of footage of me trying to build on the build. Now, I don't always do that in one day, depending on what's going on. I don't just build it through the whole day, but sometimes I do. I've had days where I've just literally built all day. But sometimes I come back to it in a separate day, so it's not like I'm sitting down for all of these for that long, but a lot of times I get distracted by whatever's on my TV and I have to cut out a lot, so that's why a lot of times it gets longer than it needs to be. But anyway, so yeah, this first part is mostly like the actual building, making the building itself, and starting to decorate the outside, while the second part of the video will of course be the inside and the screenshot videos and such. Anyway, we should be getting sort of close to the actual end of this video, as I am sort of working on the patio area. I do have two sort of dining sections that you can eat at. The one inside has more seating, because I actually put two tables together, versus this one is just a smaller table because, you know, there's other areas outside on this patio to actually sit and eat at. I actually moved the grill up to the upper section after a bit because, one, I decided like it just seemed better up there, and two, I didn't know what I was going to put up there otherwise. But yeah, so there is, this is like a really good idea for like entertaining. So if you have a sim who has like a lot of friends or a big family, or when you mix the two it gets really big, this would be a really good house for them to entertain at. And I also did make it pet friendly, mainly thinking about a dog, because again, I did have sims in mind that I'm going to move into the house for myself, and there will be a dog involved in that. So there is things here for a dog. If you do want to go download this, talking about that, so there is cats and dogs in here. If you don't have all the packs, you can actually, when you go to download it, it will have all the packs mentioned down below, like their little icons. You can actually click on it, and somewhere to the right side of the little box, it should say items in this build, and you can see how many items are in a particular pack. So if it's a pack you don't have and only 1 or 2 items are in it, it's not going to be that big of a loss. You can probably easily find something to replace it. So I do know that a lot of times I use a lot of packs in these builds because I hate not using, like, I have them now and I start getting accustomed to having those items from those certain packs, and I'm like, I don't want to get rid of them. So yeah, I know that can be semi-frustrating though, but at least with that option, and I'm glad they have that on the gallery, you can sort of get an idea of what stuff you would lose if you downloaded it for yourself. And if you're someone who has CC that you have downloaded into your game, you might actually have some CC that you can replace the stuff from the packs that you don't have. So that's another good thing about that. So you can easily click on it and see about that. If you do have trouble finding the build, if you go to download it yourself because you would like to use it in your game, if you have a hard time finding it, please let me know down in the comments below or over on my Twitter, which will be in the description below. If you want to go follow me over there and ask me, be like, hey, I can't find this build, and I'll either go to the little website version of Sims 4 Gallery and get the link for you, and check to make sure I actually uploaded it, because sometimes I'm like a day behind uploading it on accident, or I forget, because I can be a forgetful person sometimes. But yeah, so anyway, definitely let me know if you have trouble finding it though, and I will help you to the best of my ability to find it for you. I do hope that you are liking this build so far. Like I said, I really did actually love how it turned out, and I was super excited about it. While I was building it at first, where I was trying to get it as close, originally I was trying to get it as close to this inspiration as possible. It was a little stressful there at the beginning, and I was like, oh no, I don't know what to do. Like, this is hard because the limitations in this game when it comes to some aspects of building, and I'm like, but as soon as, like, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna get as close as possible and then sort of tweak it to my liking, it got a lot easier to fool with, and I started really enjoying it when it got to that part, and I was like, this is definitely a different build from what I've done, and I really like how it turned out. So I really hope that you end up enjoying this build as well. Like I said, the screenshots will be in part 2, so definitely make sure you keep an eye out for part 2. Make sure you're subscribed and have that little notification bell so that when that video does go live, you'll be able to see it. Usually I do post it a day or two, like 2 days after, because I usually post some other type of video after a speed build video. So it won't be the next day after, usually, unless on a rare occasion I do decide to post them one after another on 2 different, like on a Tuesday and a Wednesday or whatever. But Otherwise, it would be like a couple days when the part 2 will come out. Once part 2 comes out, I'll try to remember to go down in the description of this one and add part 2 in the description. Again, I'm a very forgetful person. If I don't put alarms and reminders and stuff like that on a lot of things, I will forget it. But hopefully I will remember to do that, so check the description if you're coming to this after this has been posted for a few days or longer than that. Then check the description, see if I actually remember to put part 2 down in that description below. I will try my best to remember to put it down there, so hopefully it will be there so that you can easily go from this one to that one. If not, the Sims 4 build, like the Sims 4 builds playlist, will be 100% in the description down below, which is something I always put in my builds description, so it will be down in the description below, and both videos will be in there, and they will be one right after another, because I don't post, if I have a video that has more than one parts, I won't post any other speed videos till all parts are out. So they will be one after another in that playlist, so you can also click on that playlist down there and see the next part after this one. Again, let me know if you would like to see the CC version of this build, like take a little tour. It wouldn't be like a speed build video, it'd be like taking a tour of it to see what changes was done to it afterwards. Let me know that down in the comments below. This video is wrapping up, and I am a little bit here on the inside, but not very far on the inside, but that will be in part 2. Definitely make sure to hit that lovely like button, and like I said earlier, hit subscribe and the little notification bell so that you don't miss part 2. All of my social media will be down in the description below, so you can go check it out there. And hopefully part 2 of this speed build will also be put down in that description below after that video comes out. We'll see how that goes. We'll see how my brain works there. It also depends on what's going on in my life sometimes when I post these videos, because I usually schedule videos a day or so a time ahead. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!